Respected Principal of this esteemed college, Dr. Lalita Balakrishnan, the head of the Department of Sociology that is hosting this very practical and useful seminar on women's safety, Ms. Uma Maheshwari, Ms. Mary Banu of CSIM, and other distinguished guests, members of the faculty of the college, and guests and students from other colleges, and above all the students of MOP Vaishnav. I think it is more than 10 years back that we first organized a seminar in any institution for the first time in MOP precisely on this issue of women's safety. I don't know how many of you remember that occasion. Most of you were in school at that time, but I think the staff here would recall that around 1999, before the commencement of the millennium, we were doing a series of initiatives on women's safety. So this is a long-term commitment for us, and it is a long struggle, because crimes against women begins in the minds of men and fill in the blanks. Crimes against women begin in the minds of men and women too. And just like wars begin in the minds of men, so safety of women is the principal concern of a nation. The standard of a nation's progress should be measured, as rightly mentioned and quoted by the principal, by the safety that a woman enjoys, not just in the streets, but even in the home. The woman, even as a child, is exposed to abuse within the very walls of the homes where they are expected to be safe. Sometimes by those who are the nearest and dearest, the very ones who should afford protection. We have cases even of, very horrendous cases of even girls being preyed upon by their own parents, sometimes in collusion with the mother. Fortunately, it doesn't happen too often in our society and culture, but we read of it in the papers, and it simply horrifies the human conscience. So where is it that we are going wrong? Where do we stand today in Tamil Nadu and Chennai? For a long time, Chennai was considered a safe place for girls. I am the father of 2 daughters. I think most of you must be their age. And I'm aware of the difficulties they face when they go out to metros like Delhi. But in Chennai, we thought it is safe. And until this recent horrific incident happened of the Swati case, which I believe is the trigger for the Department of Sociology to think of hosting this seminar. So let us look at what is the current status with regard to the law which protects women. Because law is the basis for all security. And police is only an enabling or enforcing agency. So according to the international norm, any distinction, exclusion or restriction made on the basis of sex which has the effect or purpose of impairing or nullifying the recognition, enjoyment or exercise by women irrespective of their marital status on a basis of equality of men and women, of human rights and fundamental freedoms, the political, economic, social, cultural, civil or any other field. So it's a very broad definition of different types of discrimination. Next. But we are more concerned with violence rather than the forms of discrimination which can start right in the home. How do women contribute? In our culture, the secondary status which has been afforded for many generations, which I believe is now considerably eroded, given to the female child, the preference of the mother for the female child, for the male child. And that is one of the seeds for violence against women. How many of you agree on that point? There are good number do agree, good number are silent. How many disagree? Strongly disagree. Strongly disagree only a couple of people. So equality needs to be practiced in the home itself. A girl should not be treated differently from a son. And that's why all the privileges that are given, freedom that's given to a son should also be given to the daughter. And this is where the parents play a crucial role in inculcating in sons the sense of equality with their female siblings. And this itself would lead in society to change. So when you all acquire the status of a parent, you all should ensure that you do not discriminate in this aspect of preference for a particular gender. Because God has created all mankind, male and female, and co-equal. So there is violence in the home, and there are incidents of sexual abuse against children right from the womb, right up to the tomb. A female faces violence right from the womb in the form of abortion. Of course, you may have different views on abortion, but abortion itself amounts to incipient murder in the womb. There may be some special reasons or for exceptions, but as a rule, life is sacred, right? And you can never say that just because the child is not fully formed, that she doesn't have a right to life. Then as the child grows, sometimes both parents are working and the child is left in the care of maybe a male, or it could even be a female caretaker, who could be a maid or a servant or a relative. And whether they are boys or girls, there is equally a possibility, of course more possible when it's a girl, of being abused without the knowledge of the parents. And because of the stigma attached, this is never reported. And you see only in the US and other countries, they come forward now, much later, to press claims against people who have abused them in their infancy. And that sort of affects the child all through their lives, till they come out in the open. So that's a very pernicious form of violence against girls. And then there is partner abuse within the home, domestic violence, where male always being stronger is always the offender. There could be some emotional, stress caused by the female partner, but there is no excuse for violence against the female partner. It could be even a partner in the sense somebody you're in a relationship with. So nobody has a right. So when Swati was being slapped, there are reports that she was being slapped. If society, Chennaites were sensitized enough, they should have responded right at that time when that boy was seen slapping her on the platform a few weeks or months before the final great grotesque tragedy. So there has to be zero tolerance of violence in homes. And none of you should tolerate even a gesture of violence when it comes to your own families. Because it completely goes against the dignity of the human being to threaten the safety of the individual. And there is protection. The Domestic Violence Act is in force, and there are penalties for that. Sexual assault, marital rape. Marital rape, of course, recent Supreme Court, High Court judgments in India have not evolved to the extent that they say that marital rape is an offense, but it is recognized worldwide as an offense. That consent is absolutely necessary and violence can never be tolerated. Sexual assaults of various nature, right from, it need not even just be in the physical form. It could be in terms of sexting. sending out a sexual message on through a SMS is not innocuous. Taking a photograph of a girl without her knowledge in a restaurant is itself an assault on her privacy. So you should not be tolerant of anything if ever you notice it. Various other forms of sexual assault today with the evolution of social media, of posting lewd comments, vulgar comments, or morphing pictures has serious consequences. And it has led to even some sensitive girls committing suicide. So there are ways in law to deal with that. Forced prostitution. Because in the society from which most of you come from, you may not be vulnerable to this, but lots of poor people, poor children, across the country, across the subcontinent, in Bangladesh, Nepal, large parts of India, are the primary centers of human trafficking. China and India are considered the capitals of human trafficking, both for bonded labor, which includes trafficking in boys and men, as well as for sexual offenses. India and all these developing economies are the supply points, transit points as well. So there are laws against human trafficking. Then we have incidents of female genital mutilation, which is the most horrific crime. It has certain cultural roots. Slavery. You find recently you would have heard about cases of women being procured and kept as a slave, as a virtual prisoner inside houses by even very influential people. So there is, as I said, the prevalence of a threat of assault and sexual abuse right from the womb till the tomb. At any age, you can not say a woman is completely immune or safe. We have heard of incidents of rape of 80-year-old women, rape and murder of 80-year-old women. So 12% of adolescent girls are vulnerable or have been victims of either assault or sexual abuse in various forms. 15% of college women, that's where your figure. And you being located in this epicenter of this city with so much of commerce, is like the business hub of the city, you are likely to be more prone as you travel in buses, being groped, and various comments, hooting as the principal mentioned, catcalls, abusive comments, attacks on your privacy, using lewd photography. All these are very much a great threat even in a so-called safe city. 20% of adult women, so the largest number of people who are likely to be victims of different forms of sexual abuse or violence are adult women, that is, who have even come out of college or could be married or unmarried. This is the global kind of statistic, but it varies from country to country. With regard to India, we will see the statistics next. So we know the horrific case of Nirbhaya, and we thought that things would improve. That India would cease to be seen as a kind of capital of sexual abuse and rape for the world. In 2012, there was a total of 24,923 rapes reported, out of which only 24% resulted in convictions. And in the year that followed, 2013, NCRB statistics show that it went up by as much as 25% instead of coming down, 33,707. And the number of so-called lesser offences or molestation complaints increased by 440%. So why is there no deterrence? That is what must be gripping your mind. Why is there not enough deterrence in our country? We should look into that aspect. But why it has increased is not because it was not happening before, but it was happening. But after this, there was a huge outrage. And it went down to the grassroots, and therefore the number of people reporting who were earlier suppressing it due to that social stigma factor. Even parents were not ready to allow, the victim to give a complaint. So the reporting of cases went up. That is one of the explanations for why it went up by 25% after such a big, huge, terrible crime. Next. So the Criminal Law Amendment Ordinance, which was brought in the wake of the Act 2013, has expressly recognized certain acts as offences which are dealt under related laws. These new offences, like acid attack, a most horrible thing. It's the equivalent of, murdering the personality of a person, not just murdering the body, the personality of a person. And it's so wonderful that we see there are some noble individuals. Recently I've seen some noble individuals who have married victims of acid attack, and they have become ambassadors for the rehabilitation of such victims. And many of these victims have even become well known in fashion designing and various other fields. So the human personality cannot be destroyed. A woman's personality cannot be destroyed. It can only be harmed. Sexual harassment, which is of a variety, as I already described. Voyeurism. Yesterday, a certain officer I know in Kerala, he has come into a bit of controversy because, any of you read about it on Facebook? Yeah, 14 seconds he said, but I don't know where he got this. Why is it not an offense when you look at a person for 5 seconds inappropriately, or 10 seconds, or 12 seconds? Why only 14 seconds? So voyeurism of any kind is an offense. Stalking, not just on the street, but following, as it happened in the Swati case. That's the time when actually both Swati as well as her parents and our colleagues should have got into action. You must have zero tolerance. Don't wait till things escalate. That is the most important thing. Reporting is very important. Things go to the next level, degree by degree it will increase. Next. So acid attack, you should know the punishments. The section is 326A IPC. You do not remember it, but you should know that the most deterrent punishment is nowadays given equal to homicide. Imprisonment not less than 10 years, it makes 10 to imprisonment for life with fine, etc. and compensation to be paid to the victim. Of course, there is no monetary compensation which can be given which will really compensate the acid attack victim. Attempt to acid attack is also punished, imprisonment not less than 5 years, it may extend to 7 years, and also liable to fine. Sexual harassment, rigorous imprisonment up to 3 years, or with fine or with both. So sexual harassment has a broad definition. It could be even abuse on a cell phone, sexting, posts on Facebook or Twitter, kind of sexual trolling of people, etc. 354C IPC, act with intent to disrobe a woman, imprisonment of not less than 3 years, which may extend to 7 years and with fine. So the gravity of the offense and the gravity of the penalty gets proportionally increased. Then voyeurism, 354D, in case of first conviction, imprisonment of not less than 1 year, but which may extend to 3 years and shall also be liable to fine. So earlier these things were minimalized. So it's good that it finds a place in law. So people, used to dismiss it. When we held that seminar, we said this term eve-teasing itself trivializes sexual offences. And that's when the present Chief Minister also came in and said that we should no longer call it eve-teasing, but sexual harassment. Stalking, imprisonment of not less than 1 year, which may extend to 3 years, similar type of punishment, and shall also be liable to fine. Stalking is actually threatening the physical security of the person. The person gets completely paralyzed with fear as she is stalked constantly by a person. And this is taken very seriously in Western countries. Unfortunately, in our country, it is not yet. I haven't heard of many cases of stalking even being registered. Have any of you ever heard of anybody who has given a complaint and a case has been registered for stalking, either online or in real? I haven't even read of it in the papers. But anyway, it's on the statute book. These are the silent inchoate provisions of law. Awareness of this in totality is one of the greatest deterrents to offense. Awareness not only by potential victims but by potential offenders. It will have a deterrent effect. Many of them may not even be aware. Those who have a tendency to be predators, sexual predators, the large numbers of them are stalking the streets of our cities.